Jason had always been skeptical about ghost stories and tales of the supernatural. A logical man in his late 30s, he believed that every eerie sound or strange occurrence had a rational explanation. So when he found himself traveling for work and needing a place to stay for the night, he thought nothing of checking into a rundown motel on the edge of town. The receptionist was an older man with a stooped back and a face weathered by time. He barely looked up as Jason approached the desk. "Room for the night?" Jason asked. The man nodded, sliding a key across the counter without saying a word. The key was attached to a worn-out plastic tag that read, "Room 6. Jason shrugged off the man's lack of hospitality, chalking it up to the lateness of the hour. The motel had seen better days. The carpets were threadbare, the wallpaper peeling, and the faint smell of mildew hung in the air. Jason carried his suitcase down the dimly lit hallway until he reached his room. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was as unimpressive as the rest of the motel, plain, with a small bed, a rickety desk, and a closet with a flimsy wooden door. Jason set his suitcase down and threw himself onto the bed. He scrolled through his phone, but the weak Wi-Fi made it impossible to stream anything. With nothing else to do, he decided to call it a night. At around 2 a.m., Jason woke up with a start. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the motel's ancient air conditioner. He wasn't sure what had woken him, but his eyes immediately drifted to the closet. Something about the way the door was slightly ajar made his skin crawl. "I'm imagining things," he muttered to himself, shaking his head. He got up, walked over to the closet, and pushed the door shut. The old hinges creaked loudly as the door clicked into place. Satisfied, he climbed back into bed and pulled the covers over himself. Moments later, he heard it. A soft scratching noise. It was faint at first, like fingernails lightly brushing against wood. Jason froze. The sound was coming from the closet. His heart began to race as he sat up, staring at the closet door. The scratching grew louder, more deliberate. It wasn't the sound of tree branches or an animal outside. It was coming from inside the room. Jason grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. He hesitated for a moment, then slowly got out of bed and approached the closet. The scratching stopped as he reached for the doorknob. "Hello," he called out, his voice trembling. There was no response. He yanked the door open, shining the flashlight inside. The closet was empty, save for a lone wooden hanger dangling from the rod. Jason let out a shaky laugh. "Get it together," he muttered, closing the door once more. As he turned to go back to bed, he caught something out of the corner of his eye. A reflection in the mirror above the dresser. He whipped around, aiming the flashlight at the mirror. For a split second he thought he saw a face, a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes staring at him from the closet's reflection. His stomach dropped. He spun back to the closet and threw the door open again. Nothing. The closet was still empty. Jason stood there for a long moment, his breathing uneven. He tried to convince himself it was a trick of the light, a product of his overactive imagination. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone in the room. The rest of the night was restless. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the wind outside set Jason's nerves on edge. He left the closet door open, unable to bear the thought of hearing that scratching again. By morning, he was eager to leave. He packed his things and checked out without a word to the receptionist, who seemed entirely uninterested in Jason's departure. As he drove away, he told himself he'd just been tired, that his mind had been playing tricks on him. But deep down, he couldn't shake the memory of that face in the mirror. Jason tried to put the experience behind him, but strange things started happening in the weeks that followed. He would wake up in the middle of the night, convinced he heard scratching at his bedroom door. His closet door at home, which he always kept closed, would sometimes be open when he returned from work. One night, he woke to the sound of whispering. It was faint, barely audible, but it was there. He turned on every light in his apartment, searching for the source of the sound, but found nothing. He began to have nightmares. In his dreams, he was back in the motel room, standing in front of the closet. The door would creak open, and the face would appear, grinning at him with teeth that were too sharp, too numerous. He would wake up drenched in sweat, the image burned into his mind. Jason decided he needed answers. He drove back to the motel one weekend, determined to find out if anyone else had experienced anything strange. When he arrived, the receptionist from before was gone,